Courage comes before confidence. So if you are brave enough to try some of these new rituals and these new things, you will see how good you feel. You will feel confident, you will feel accomplished, you will feel proud of yourself. And I'm telling you, that momentum is so powerful. It's so powerful.
Welcome to the BDI Create Today podcast. This is a podcast where we uncover and discover the who, what, where, when, why, and how you can be creative or have more creativity. And together we'll explore the extraordinary impact creativity can have in your life, in heart, mind, body, and soul. And if we haven't met yet, I'm Beth Buffington, a licensed artist, digital illustration instructor, and a creative coach living just outside of the Windy City, Chicago. But mostly, I'm someone who is curious about how creativity can weave its way into nearly everything in our lives. Each week, we are going to look at one or more of the sparkly facets that make up the ever-changing kaleidoscope that is creativity. Hello, my creative friends. Welcome back to another episode of Create Today with Beth Buffington. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to my very special guest. She's Lisa Murphy. Lisa is a healthy aging coach. She is someone who is wonderful at taking a look at who you are and where you are in your life's journey and finding out how you can become happier and healthier in your heart, mind, body, and soul. She's been with the Create Today podcast before, and we're bringing her back to talk today about pillars of health that you can apply to your life as a creative. Lisa, I am so excited to have you here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you hop in and just tell everyone a little bit about who you are and how you started doing what you're doing right now?
Hi, Beth. First of all, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be back on the show, and it's always a delight spending time with you. Yeah, I started my journey, I guess you would say, as an entrepreneur and a healthy aging coach. I think it really started when I was born in Iowa, and I grew up the daughter of both parents were raised on farms. And I had this amazing exposure to the outdoors and to growing food and to being a little bit self-sustainable. That we've probably lost a little bit down the line, but it was just a really wonderful, wholesome way and place to grow up. And then my life took me, of course, as for all of us, lots and lots of twists and turns. I had a corporate career that I loved at the time, but I got really tired of getting on an airplane every Sunday and coming home every Friday. And too many of my colleagues watched them around me develop very unhealthy lifestyles. It was a sales job, and man, we had fun, right? It was hard living on the road. And I saw right then that I wanted something different for myself. And when I left that corporate gig, that wish and desire just stayed with me. It's okay, how can I be very much a participant in the world and yet still honor my values and my desires and my goals for my own health? And that's the way it went down in a nutshell.
We have a lot of parallels because my family, everyone is from the farm area in Nebraska. So we have a lot of commonalities there. And I do know that back in the day when we were out of college and we were in corporate jobs, corporate life at that time was supposed to be glittery and exciting. And it was a grind. It was a lot of overtime. You should come early and you should stay late, and work through lunch was what you did. And that was just the norm. And it wasn't healthy. And a lot of us had very unhealthy lives, the way we were eating at work and the fact that we were up so much, and sleep. You can sleep when you're dead. I think that was the
Yeah, yeah.
With
I love that.
sleep.
Yeah, yeah. It's a Warren Zevon lyric, and I actually use that a lot. You can sleep when you're dead, but you're going to be dead a whole lot sooner. And I think you hit on two really important parts, the stress and the lack of sleep, if we will. And
Mhm.
maybe we'll talk about that today, but those two things are sorely overlooked, whether you're in a corporate job, whether you are a creative. I know a lot of your listeners and a lot of creative people, they do their artwork on the side and they have day jobs, and we all have only 24 hours a day. What gives if you're trying to do all these things? Yeah, well, I'm confident we'll come back to sleep and stress in our podcast.
Yeah. I know the ultimate goal is that work life balance. Everyone always talks about that. And as we know, there's no such thing as perfect balance, but there is such a thing as being mindful of what you need to do to attempt to reach that and stay more balanced. So that is why Lisa is here today. She is here to give us some secrets, some tips, some rituals, all the things that are going to make it easier for us to stay healthier as creatives in heart, mind, body, and soul, which is what we always talk about. So, Lisa, tell us some goodies that you're here today to share.
I would really like to approach our time together today from what I call pillars of the day. And when I start working with a one-on-one client, like you said, thank you so much. I meet everyone where they are because we all have our own starting point, but we've got to know where the starting point is so we can devise a direction to get us to where we want to go. And one of the first things that I do to help my clients get from where they are and where they to where they want to go is we start creating their days. So I just love it that the name of your podcast is Create Today. And that is what your listeners are going to be able to do when they follow along. We need to create our day rather than allowing life to come at us and just throw everything to which we're just like batting flies and just reacting to everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're going to talk about pillars of the day for a more creative and a more peaceful day.
Oof, I love it. I love it. Let's get started.
Fantastic. It might surprise you, but the day that you create actually starts the night before.
Mm.
So I want to talk about evening pillars. So we're going to talk about morning pillars and evening pillars. What do I mean by pillars? It's a double entendre. I'm very fancy, Beth, and I can be very French. Just a few words, just a few words. But pillars, if you think about what a pillar is, it is something that holds something up. It's supportive. And so that is the first very literal meaning of pillars of the day, the things that prop up your day like bookends and they support you, right? And the second is if we think about, we're both Midwestern girls and from farm families. Back then, we worked with the sun, we lived with the sun, we got up with the sun, we went to bed with the sun. Things are different now. We are 24/7, we are on all of the time, we are expected to be on all of the time.
Yeah.
And so there is absolutely no boundary to our day. So I really like to consider my pillars as my personal unspoken boundaries of when my day starts and when my day ends. So my pillars are actual actionable items, which we will talk about. But then for me, energetically, it just gives me, okay, this is where I am in my ebb and flow cycle of the day. And it just gives it definition and meaning.
Yes, I love that. So doing these things that Lisa is going to share with us, I'm sure is going to help us find the strength we need to carry through our day. Yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So let us start with the night before. If we want to create the day that we want
Mhm.
tomorrow, it starts the night before. So if we think about the literal meaning of the evening pillar, what is going to support you for the day that you want to have tomorrow? For me, one of the biggest things is actually setting myself up for a good night's sleep.
Wow. And I don't know about all of you, but that is a struggle for me. And I'm sure it's a struggle for a lot of you. I can get to sleep. Staying asleep
Yeah.
is really difficult. So
Yeah.
tell us some secrets.
Mhm. Okay, so we need to work backwards, right? If we
Right.
know we need 7 to 9 hours of sleep most nights uninterrupted, and
Mm-hmm.
by the way, every single one of your listeners, I'm pretty sure, is in the age bracket that needs 7 to 9. Sometimes older people can get by with a little bit less if they're not working, they're not creating, they don't have two jobs, right? And younger people need even more. So I'm talking to you. You need 7 to 9 hours of mostly uninterrupted sleep most nights. So just start backwards. If you got to get up at 6 a.m., but you're staying up till midnight, that may seem really obvious, but we need to think about that, right? We've got to allocate enough time for rest. So, what time do you want to wake up? Allocate yourself enough hours before you go to bed. And then let's talk about the time right before you go to bed. I'm wondering what most people are doing before they turn out the light to go to sleep.
A lot of people are probably either watching television or they're on their phones or tablets. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on devices, right?
Mhm.
So I think, and this is tweetable, as Marie Forleo would say, probably one of the most important, most impactful things you can do to get a good night's sleep and to set yourself up to create the day you want is to observe a power down hour.
Mhm. Okay.
And what I mean by this is at least 1 hour. I would love it to be more, but at least 1 hour before lights out and you want your head to hit the pillow. All devices are powered off. Phones, tablets, TVs, anything with a screen is shut down.
So, for everyone out there that's going, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do you suggest people do for that hour then without
Yeah,
any devices?
fantastic question. So, what I want, I never take anything away from people, I just add more in. So, first of all, I would love for your listeners to think about is what rituals
Mhm.
are soothing and relaxing and help balance their nervous system and help them feel calm. And I would love for them to make a list of those, like a menu, if you will. And then that is what we are going to fill that empty hour with. So for me, it might be a hot bath.
Mhm.
It might be reading. I love reading before I go to bed on a book, in a book, reading a book.
So, what
It
if you have a tablet to read out of now? Because can I? Is that wrong? Am I crossing the line?
Yeah, that's going to be different for everyone. But first of all, let's talk about why devices are so disruptive to
Yeah.
our sleep.
Yes.
They are psychologically stimulating. Okay. And what I mean by that is you open Instagram and, oh man, Beth had this really great workshop on Friday and I missed it. I intended to sign up. Okay. Then you're thinking about what you didn't do and it's
Yeah.
stimulating. Or you see somebody else whose life looks 10,000 times better than
Yep.
yours, or you see your ex and they're having a ball the time of their life. So it's
Mhm.
psychologically stimulating to us. It gets us amped up when we're really wanting to quiet down. But screens are physiologically stimulating and disrupting as well. So when you are using a device, there's a really good chance it's going to be psychologically and or physiologically stimulating. So stimulating to our minds or to our nervous systems. Now, yes, you can use the filters, the blue glasses, and that does help. But the blue light that these devices emit, it messes with our melatonin production, which
Ah.
is so funny because I wonder how many people are taking melatonin to go to sleep.
And then you're negating anything that you think is
Yeah.
helping you. Yeah.
Back to what else? So that was a great question. It's not the end of the world if you want to read on your device. I would prefer that you read on something that's not a device. Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, does anybody else get tempted if you're reading on your tablet or your phone? I don't know about you, but it's super tempting. All that stuff is right there. Super
Mhm.
tempting to open emails, to open text, to open social media, right?
I think you almost do it without thinking these days. You're not even in your head talking to yourself. You just suddenly realize that you're looking at your email or you're checking whatever else you need to keep tabs on.
We can talk more perhaps about device dependency and addiction in another podcast. I would love
Yeah.
that so much. But exactly, that's exactly it. So we want to set ourselves up for success. Let's just remove all of the temptations, and then we don't even have to think about it, right?
Yep.
So a warm bath, reading a book,
Mm-hmm.
a walk around the block, cuddling with your pets, a
Mm-hmm.
cup of chamomile tea. So these are all things that might be relaxing and soothing to someone. They're all things that would be wonderful for me. But everybody gets to pick their own, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna cut this off at the chase before we even get started. People are gonna say, "Oh, but I find scrolling social media relaxing." You may think so, but I'm sorry, no. It does not work that
Mhm.
way.
Everyone listen to what Lisa just said. Studies show that social media is something that does heighten your stress,
Mhm.
and that blue light from your devices is something that is robbing you of melatonin. There's two strikes right there. So just listen to Lisa. And you know what? If you're a skeptic, just try it for a week and see what happens.
I love
Right?
that. Do an
Yeah.
experiment.
I'm
Do
going to
an
totally do this next week. And because, I do love to turn pages on my book. I
experiment.
usually go to bed and listen to a book as I'm falling asleep. So I'm not on my device, but I'm listening to it as I fall asleep. But I'm going to try just no, I'm just going to read a book. And when I get sleepy, then I'll lay the book down and see how that works.
See how it goes. If sleeping through the night is something that you're struggling with right now, Beth, definitely do some experiments, collect some data,
Yeah.
and that's a great place to start. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Here's a question for you, too. How about eating? Can I have some snacks before I go to bed? Or when should I not be eating? Can I have a late dinner? How's that work?
So I love that. Thank you for asking that. And when you're first setting your pillars, you may want to just choose one thing. If this is all going to be really big change for you, let's just start small. So I would say power down hour is probably one of the most impactful.
Mhm.
So I would recommend starting there. But I love the thinking about, can I be snacking in bed while I'm reading my book? Okay, so that's a great question. Let's talk about that. Ideally, would eat much earlier than most of us probably are. This is something that I'm still really guilty. I'm still really guilty with. We've learned so much, and some of your listeners may be familiar with time restricted eating, where you only eat in certain windows. It's said to be very helpful for metabolism and weight loss. That's a different topic. But we know that we are going to sleep better if we finish eating a couple of hours before we go to bed.
Okay.
So for me, one of my pillars is that I close the kitchen at a certain time too. So maybe it's an hour before bed, maybe it's 3 hours before bed. The more time before you're eating and you go to bed, the better on your digestion and on your sleep.
Yeah.
But I would say work it out for you, experiment, but it's really nice to close the kitchen,
I
like
think
shutting down the devices.
I love that. Just say your kitchen's closed, because if something's closed, you can't get in there. And sometimes your brain just needs to have that acknowledgement, this is closed. It is easier rule to follow than just don't eat.
Okay.
It's
Again,
important.
we're just having fun with ourselves, right? And
Right.
our brain is pretty tricky, but we're smarter, so we can override the brain. And what this is doing is it's setting up a concept called pre-deciding. When we decide in advance, we do not have to make a decision in the moment. You may have heard of decision fatigue. That is exhausting. And if we wait until 9 o'clock and we're passing by the chocolate chip cookies on the counter, if we wait until that moment to decide if we're going to eat one or not, I'm going to eat at least three chocolate chip cookies, right?
Mhm. Yes, it'll happen.
Yeah,
It will
yeah.
happen. All right. So now we know about food and devices. Anything else we need to know about getting ready for evening?
I think it's really nice if we can work some peace and quiet time in there. And that may be part of the power down hour for someone, but it also may be separate. So, peace and quiet is a term I use for what we could also describe as meditation, mindfulness, prayer, something inspirational. And I really like to distinguish between habit and ritual, and this might be the perfect place to define those two. A habit is something that we just do automatically.
Mhm.
We don't really think about these things, we don't attach much meaning to them. But when we're trying to create new patterns, or when we're trying to change, when we're trying to create transformation, it can be really helpful instead of just forcing our way through new habits to create ritual around the things that
Mhm.
we want to employ. So, an example of this might be if your listeners already have a prayer or a meditation or a journaling in the evening would be another great one too. If they already have a practice, let's really get clear about what it means to you. So, if you like to sit in quiet and meditate for a few minutes before you go to bed, why do you want to do that? And what is it that is special to you? And how can you ritualize it rather than just saying every night before I go to bed, I X? So light a candle, light some incense, have some lavender room spray. Like really set the scene as if you were making a movie, as if you were creating your own life, because that's what you're doing.
It is
So
what you're doing. You're creating. Yes.
it's beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful metaphor and a symbol. Yeah. Mm.
I love it. Okay. So now what?
So we've got eating early enough so that our food can digest and doesn't keep us up. We've got rituals, peace and quiet rituals. We've got power down hour. Let's say one more thing about the evening pillar, if we might, and then we can move on to morning.
Great.
What we eat also matters. When we eat matters, but what we eat matters, especially if you're going to eat or snack after dinner. So you mentioned that middle of the night wake up. For me, it's usually around 3 a.m. It is noticeably worse if I've had alcohol, if I've had sugar, if I've had dark chocolate, all the yummy things, if I've had any kind of processed food. So it's going to be different for everyone, but really pay attention to how you feel when you eat certain foods. And then you can choose accordingly. Again, we're just creating our next best day. So all of these little things are important and matter.
Love it. I love it. And I know everything in moderation is something that I live by. And there are nights where you're going to be somewhere with family or out to dinner and it's later and you're going to have a drink or you're going to eat something that's a little bit heavier. And I think if you know that when you wake up at 3 o'clock and you are having trouble going back to sleep, this is why. And it's not going to be every night, but I did enjoy myself at the moment. So now I'm going to just be awake for a little bit and it's going to be okay and not to stress on that. Like, does that make sense?
100%. It makes 100% sense. I tell everybody, I want you to eat what you want when you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to do it consciously.
Yeah.
So again, are we on habit or are we on ritual? Are we eating a steak and drinking red wine and chasing it down with dark chocolate cake? Or are we at a meal with friends, with loved ones, and are we really enjoying the beauty of the meal, knowing that it might affect our sleep? That's first. Second, yes, we wake up in the middle of the night, and a lot of times the anxiety about being awake in the
Yeah.
middle of the night is worse than actually being awake in the middle of the night. So I like what you said. Let's just relax into it, have some peace and quiet time,
Mm-hmm.
pick up some of the things from our relaxing menu that you just identified, hopefully, and enjoy some nice quiet time in the middle of the night.
Yes. Can always have another cup of tea.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, anything else we need to know about this evening pillar?
I think it's a great start.
I do too. Okay. Now, what do we think about? What's next?
So we want to create the day that you want. So what is it that you want for your day to look like? What do you want your day to feel like? I know you do deal with organization
Yeah.
in your work, and I think it's really important to get clear on what it is that you want from your days. And there are lots of ways that you can do this. You can have a planner, you can keep a calendar. But what do you want your day to look like and how do you want to feel as you move through it? So that's really important, first of all. But just like we created the power down hour in the evening pillar, let's talk about something very similar on the flip side, the morning pillar.
Yeah.
What do you suppose the first thing in the morning that many of us do? What do you suppose that might be?
I think a lot of us look at our phones,
Yeah.
right? I know I have my phone by my bed. It's
Mhm.
charging by my bed. Part of that's because I have older parents and I do get phone calls in the middle of the night. I also have children that still call their mother if they need some help, only if it's an emergency. But if it's an emergency, I always want everyone to know that I'm there for them. So my phone's right there. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that you do pull up and just check. Again, what happened overnight? Did I get any emergency emails? I think a lot of us are doing that because we have people that we know we need to serve and we hit the floor running and we're not even on the floor yet.
Right. So you make some good points. Of course, we want to be there for people who need us. I probably would push back just a little with a friendly challenge about I wonder what we did 20 years ago before we had any of this technology. Were we still able to care for our people as much? I think the phones are different because a lot of us don't have landlines anymore. So we might want to have that phone by the side of the bed.
Yes.
But I don't know, are emergency emails, does that really exist?
No, that really doesn't.
Right.
And what can you do in your pajamas anyway, right? So it's just going to be a way to start your day in a real upside down way.
So again, let's think about what is it you want for your day?
Mm,
Do you want to be creative? Do you want to be focused? Do you want to be able to calmly approach what it is that you need to do? Or do you want to be a crazy, chaotic person whose nervous system is all over the place and you're bouncing from one thing to the next? And you might think, what does a morning pillar or an evening pillar have to do anything? It has everything to do with it because we've lost the connection between what we do and how we feel. But it
mm,
matters. It matters. The habits, the rituals that we employ affect how we move through our day. Just ask your coworkers or your partner, right? They can tell us. They can tell us, wow, you didn't have enough sleep last night, did you?
yes, yes. Now, it hasn't been that long ago when I had a job and I had an owner and a manager who would text me or email me at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I think a note here is to take a look at the environment that you're forced to be in. Does your working environment make you feel like you need to be available 24/7?
So again, remember, I love that you brought up the 2 a.m. emails and texts, and perhaps we're going backward a little, but remember, we are creating not just our day, but our life.
Yes.
You're creating your life. And when you allow, like you said, the environment in which you find yourself, and maybe you feel forced, or maybe there's more at play there, right? But these environments that we find ourselves in, or we allow ourselves to continue to be in, and the way we allow people to treat us, we teach people how to treat us.
Yes.
And so if we're answering that email at 2 a.m., we've only taught that colleague or that boss that's okay, right?
Yeah.
So, last note on this, if you have your phone by your bed for reasons that we talked about, it's do not disturb mode. You can set your favorites.
Yes, you
So
can.
if
Yes.
if your mother needs you in the middle of the night or your daughter, they can call and ring through. The setting also will ring through if you get, I think it's 2 or 3 calls from an individual. And let's be honest, what we're talking about is the exception rather to the rule. It's going to be our resistance to doing that that's going to cause the suffering rather than us actually missing a call, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, phew,
Okay.
enough on.
Enough screens. Miss what now?
So, how much time in the morning? Again, it's different for everyone.
Hmm.
What works for you? I know for me, if I want to have a clear head, if I want to feel focused, if I want to be at my most creative, I do not pick up my phone until after I've reached a certain place in my day. That's my energetic pillar. So, for some people, it might be, say, 8 o'clock. For me, it is not until I've had my lemon water, I've done my meditation, And preferably, I've also moved my body and gotten outside, right? So those are my non-negotiables first thing in the morning before I turn myself on, if you will.
Okay, I know that there has to be a lot of people like me that are thinking right now, ooh, lemon water. Please tell me more. Is that something you're going to explain to us? Yeah.
It is a ritual that I have done for years and years. I think hydration is super important. I believe you and I have talked about that, if not in this episode, in something else.
Yes.
So drinking water before coffee or tea is
Mhm.
super important. Adding a squeeze of lemon makes it more of a ritual for me rather than just a habit. So I go to my kitchen, I make a cup of warm water, I squeeze in the juice of up to half of a fresh lemon. It acts a little mini cleanse, a mini detox in your body that can help turn on your digestion, elimination. So it's just a beautiful habit. I make myself a cup of lemon water every morning. I have at least a few sips or the whole thing before I switch over to my coffee.
Love it. So you are still drinking coffee. Whoo, that's good.
I do still drink coffee, but
Yeah.
never first. Always some water passes my lips before.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I know I've been drinking more water, but I know you and I've talked about the lemon water, and that is filtered out of my consciousness. So I'm going to reintroduce that because we usually have lemons in our fridge.
Yeah,
So
just
that's
a nice
yeah.
ritual. Yeah.
So warm. Are you talking lukewarm? Or are you talking like instead of tea, I'm having lemon in my water?
I like to do it seasonally. So in the summer when it's hot, I will do room temperature. In the fall and winter months when it's cooler, I'll actually heat the kettle and make a tea, a lemon tea. You can add a few slices of fresh ginger if you like as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that sounds fun. Okay. That's something I'm going to add to my list of things to do.
It's a
Love. Yeah.
beautiful ritual. So then if we think about focus and organization, again, another very important part of my pillar is to look at my calendar without getting distracted. If your
That's so
calendar's
hard.
your
Oh my
phone.
gosh, that's so hard to go to
Yeah,
because my calendar's on my phone. And
yeah, yeah.
number of times I will go to get on my calendar, and then 2 minutes later, I realize I'm not there yet. I'm ashamed to say I do that almost every day.
You know what? So there's a couple quick hacks for that. One is print off a paper copy of your calendar the night before and have it there until you have trained your brain and trained yourself not to go there. Honestly, we probably really know what we need, what we've got on our calendar for the most
I
part. So,
typically do. It's very rare that I look and go, oh, I forgot. It happens, but
yeah.
not a lot.
So I like to make a list of the top 1 to 3 things that I will feel really awesome about if I accomplish. And
Mhm.
so I think the idea of prioritizing is so important. And even if you're an artist and you rely on the sacred muse and inspiration comes down, right? Like if we think about Stephen Pressfield and in the War of Art, and it's sometimes we just got to put our time into, we got to get our butt in our chair and we got
Yeah,
to.
do the work.
So whatever that is for you, then 1 to 3 priorities written down as a list. That's something that works for me. But I
Mhm.
don't stop there. I put them in my calendar. I have to find a spot, and I wouldn't recommend doing that until you've opened your devices, right? Because again, you're going to be tempted to get lost in that. But we have to assign a time when we're going to do the work. If we just say, I'm going to do the work, when are you going to do it? If you're in meetings for your day job from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., when are you going to do the work? So let's,
Especially important if you have a side hustle and you have
yeah,
things you want to accomplish. Yeah, telling yourself, like, it's not actually telling yourself, it's giving yourself permission, allowing yourself to do something. And we've talked about this on the podcast so much that if there's something you really want to do, but you're busy doing things for your family and your friends and all the other people in your life, and you're the thing that falls off of the to do list every day, then it's important for you to actually schedule time for yourself. And
yeah,
that is saying you'd go to a dentist appointment if it was on your calendar, you'd go to a dinner party if it was on your calendar. So if there's something for your own creative goodness that you want to do, if you set a time for it and it's on your calendar, then you've just given yourself the permission to do the thing.
yeah. Let's ritualize it. What
Mhm.
if it weren't just an appointment, but it were a sacred appointment with
Yes,
ourselves
yes, yes,
that can be rescheduled but not canceled?
yes. It's a good point.
Yeah, that can be helpful.
Hmm.
One to three things, one to three main things. And then you can have a list B of things that would be nice if you get them done. But the problem is, so many of us, we create these to-do lists that are 10 miles long, and then we sit down at our desk and go,
I don't know where to start. Yeah. What do I do?
yeah.
Hmm.
So I just like maybe an hour or so in the morning with my lemon water and then with my coffee, with my paper planner, my journal, whatever it is. I go through all kinds of fun different things that I use. I like that time before I turn on. So before I turn any devices on, before I start work. Again, it's just my bookend to the morning. And I can hear your listeners thinking a lot of times, I even think I don't have time to do that planning. I've got to jump right in. But it's like anything else. We actually are more productive when we take some time in the morning to get ourselves sorted and get ourselves grounded and organized.
I'm so glad you brought up the planner. I do think that the fact that you not only mentioned a planner, but you mentioned a paper planner, there's something about doing a to-do list, a planner, planning out your day with a tactile method that helps make it a little bit more concrete and a little bit more real. And when you walk away from it, because you wrote it with your hand, I
Yeah.
think your brain remembers it better. And if you come to the workshop this month, we're going to be giving out the Create Today planner. And it is part of my doodle meditation. If you didn't have a chance to take that workshop, you can take it on the Watch Now workshops. It's still available. The Create Today planner gives you an area to doodle to help you manifest your goals through a doodle. But it has, just like what Lisa mentioned, a place where you can list what you want to do today. And there are three boxes up at the top that have special color. So you can have your most important tasks that you want to get done. And this planner is going to help you also organize your week as to whether you should be caring for yourself, or if you should be collecting ideas, or if you should be doing work, or you should be figuring out how you're going to get work out into the world. That's what the workshop's all about. So I'm so glad you brought up the planner, because I do think that's key for getting yourself organized. And like you just said, if you take a moment to organize yourself in the beginning of the day, you really do get more done because you're
Yeah.
mindful of all the things you'd like to do. And so you're less likely to spend too much time on one thing or just go on a wild tangent and do a bunch of things that weren't on your list.
For sure. And remember, we're creating our day. So, how
Yes.
do we want our day to flow? And
Mhm.
I would think, especially for artists and creative people, we're priming the pump.
Mhm.
So, I love it that your planner has the practical, and then it's also got the space for fun and for creativity and for play. So, get a little bit of doodling going, maybe do the doodle meditation for your morning peace and quiet time
Yes.
and
Yes.
get those creative juices flowing.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Super. Yeah.
The planner also has an area for you to celebrate yourself. Sometimes when we can ground ourselves by saying, look how far I've come so far, and
Mm.
celebrate where we are today because we can compare it to where we've come.
Beth, it sounds like your planner is the perfect tool for the entire morning pillar. So you've got the prioritizing, the practical, the tactical built in. You've got space for the creative. You've got space for appreciation of yourself, which is very similar to a gratitude practice.
Yes.
So, what a beautiful time. What if your listeners could spend maybe 5 minutes, maybe up to an hour with your planner or the tool of their choosing, but that itself with your lemon water, then your coffee or your tea right there. If you did nothing else, that would set the stage for an absolutely beautiful, creative, productive day.
Yes. Does not sound lovely.
It
Mhm.
does. It
So
really.
tell me, are you listening to the news, or what are you doing sound wise while you're doing this part of the ritual? Tell me about that.
Great question. For me, silence. I practice silence. I don't listen to anything. And If we think about our inputs and stimulation, again, how do you want to feel as you move through the day? And how are you setting yourself up? If you listen to the news, it's mostly doom and gloom. I know a lot of people are under a lot of stress and anxiety from recent weather events, from the political scene, from the world scene. If you take that in, how are you going to feel? I can tell you it's going to pump you full of cortisol, it's going to pump you full of adrenaline,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
your nervous system is going to be totally out of whack. So, yeah, if you need some sound, that the bird singing doesn't quite do it for you. There's all kinds of beautiful soundscapes that you can use. I would personally stick to something really gentle and soft and not even a podcast. Remember, we're just trying to focus and we're trying to create our day. And when we start letting all of this other stuff in, it
Mm.
can be a little topsy-turvy for us.
Yeah. And if you're someone who says, but I need my current events, I need to know what's happening in the world, there are podcasts you can listen to later after you're done with that morning ritual.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like to stay informed as well. And if you have a news app on your phone, I can easily look at the headlines there
Mhm.
after, later.
After.
But my ritual is when I eat lunch, I take a proper lunch hour every day, most days. I sit down with the old school paper newspaper in my hometown, in my local town where I live.
Mhm.
So that's it. That's my news time. I read the newspaper and maybe scroll a national headline on the news. But yeah, again, we're just, how do we want to feel? How do we want to feel at the end of the day? How do we want to sleep?
So I think you need to stop and think to yourself when you're making decisions about what you're doing with your day. How do I want to feel? And then take a look at what you're doing and think, how is this making me feel right now? Should I put it away? Is it a guilty pleasure that is just going to cause me some sort of anxiety when I'm done or while I'm doing it or for the rest of the day? How is it helping you? And again, you give it a try, right? Just see what, do it for a week.
Absolutely. Do some experiments. Yeah. And if you don't know, I know a lot of people maybe don't know how all these things correlate. Totally fair enough. So just play around, have some fun, get creative, try some different color combinations, and then see how it works.
See what works for you. A lot of people are probably thinking, I have loud children at home, so I can't be quiet during the morning. So, again, can you put in the lemon water? Can you keep the news off? What can you do to just tamp down on the craziness that's happening? And then, when could you find that quiet time?
Absolutely. Remember, we meet everyone where they are. We're all in different life circumstances, and we don't just take things away, but we add more good
Add
in.
more things.
So,
Yeah.
what can you add in to
Mhm.
your morning? Maybe it's setting the alarm 5 minutes earlier so that you can have a few quiet moments to yourself before the household awakens.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, now we have our planner. And what do we do now? How are we going to carry this through our day?
So I think it's really important to get some idea, and you may need to do some experiments about when you are your most productive, when you are your most creative, and
Mhm.
then plan accordingly. I don't know about you, Beth, but a lot of times what happens after I've had my quiet time in the morning, then I'll get into my computer or my phone, I start checking emails. That is a bottomless pit. It's
Yeah.
worse than that. It's a black hole. It will suck you in. So
Mhm.
are we, I hate to say wasting, but I'm going to, are we wasting our most productive, our most creative hours doing things that don't really require that energy? So it's important to know that about yourself. And you may need to experiment, right?
Yes.
So you plan accordingly. And I really encourage everyone to do their most important things first thing.
They will give you the most satisfaction because you got something large done. Because if you keep putting it off and you are just ticking off smaller things, at the end of the day, you're still going to look at those big projects and think, I didn't get them done.
And then if we know our evening sets us up for the next day, then that's going to be weighing on our mind.
Yeah.
Courage comes before confidence. So if you are brave enough to try some of these new rituals and these new things, you will see how good you feel.
Mm-hmm.
You will feel confident, you will feel accomplished, you will feel proud of yourself. And I'm telling you, that momentum is so powerful. It's so powerful.
And these are actually small things. There's a few of them, but they are little things that you can just tuck into your day. Just try one at a time.
Try one.
Power down. See if you can do that. Or add your lemon water, or find that quiet time in the morning to work on your planner, or think about what are those 3 tasks. Because today's all about how you're creating today. So make it your own decision and feel the power of understanding that you can change things in your life and that it doesn't have to be a complete makeover. And do things small and one at a time. And then don't forget to look back and think, how has my life changed for the better? Look at the gain that you've had and celebrate the goodness you've added to your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I'm so thankful for you and for the simple things you bring for us. Just they open up a window that change how I am perceiving myself, how I'm taking care of myself, and then how I can go about getting my work done. So how you create today is important every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And remember, you are creating your day and your life. And that is an incredible privilege and also a tremendous responsibility to take responsibility and ownership for actually creating our lives. I think it's amazing.
And it doesn't matter what season of life you're in, does it, Lisa? You can make some positive changes to your world no matter where you are in life.
No matter what, there's always one little layer we can peel back to get just a little bit closer to our true essence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any last little nugget of goodness that might be something you could add a cherry on top?
I encourage your listeners to really carve out some time for meditation or prayer, contemplation. I think that can just be so life changing. And if you don't know how to do that, why reach out, and that's something that I can help with.
Yes, that is something I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. If you like what Lisa has been talking about today, she is here to answer your questions. Please, Lisa, tell everyone how they can find you, get a hold of you, and how they can learn more goodness from you.
Thank you, Beth. I'm at lisamurphyllc.com. That's my website, and there you'll find all you need to know. I'm on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I've got a silly little cooking show called Veg with Lisa on YouTube. It's a Facebook Live. But your listeners can reach out to me at my website. There's actually a link to book a complimentary, courtesy of Beth, 20-minute call where I am here to answer questions, to help, and to help people create the lives that they want. That's my job. That's what I love to do.
Yes, yes. So Lisa's there to take a look at where you are right now and to help you gracefully walk through life and feel strong and confident in whatever season you're in. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lisa, thank you so much for coming. And to everyone that's listening today, just think for a second how you want to create today for you. Figure out what that might be and start planning your tomorrow this evening. What can you do tonight that is going to help you figure out what you need to do for evening and for morning to make your days just that much better? So no matter how you decide to create today, my friend, remember to stay creative. Thanks for coming. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.